Good afternoon, Scott Baker.
Mikey, good afternoon to you. October 6th, 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Time for another edition of Lead Better. Today's field note is entitled, Are You an Objective Decision Maker? It is
Yeah.
field note number 1579. So
Yeah.
are you an objective decision maker?
Right now, I'm not objective because I'm going to come in hot on a previous topic of what we were
Okay.
just talking about, right?
Okay.
So you and I were discussing this phenomenon of people, celebrities who are on Cameo, who deliver
right.
personalized messages for a fee.
Right.
And so
That's the only reason I'm here. Like I wouldn't be talking to you if I,
Yeah,
if
right.
you hadn't entered your credit card and yeah.
But it made me think that people faced with paying $350 for a personalized message from a celebrity versus figuring out how to get it for free just might figure out how to leverage AI pretty easily in the future, right?
Yeah.
Because you just upload a picture of the celebrity that you have in
You
mind.
can get the voice and
And you don't say that it's a celebrity, right?
Yeah.
And then you don't. So there's ways that you could cobble it together. So if there are these Cameo style presentations that are all AI generated that you can basically get for free, will Cameo be able to survive? And
very good points.
My thought becomes, is it possible that this credibility nature, this notion that you're credible and objective, right, is that the celebrities will have a tendency to dumb down their appearance in order to make it more credible, right? Like because if you're a celebrity and you're like, no, this is really me, then you're going to want to do things with your hair down a little bit, right?
Oh, you just to slub a little bit, right?
In order to prove that it's really me. So I'm not going to go in with full makeup.
Although wouldn't I be like, I'd like to have a message. I would like it to be from a really obese Brad Pitt doing a backflip off.
That's
of a diving
completely
board.
different. Yes, I understand what you're saying, why you would want to do that, but that's that AI version versus a super fan who really wants to get a message from Brad Pitt.
Sure.
Right.
Now, okay. I want to keep exploring this. Now, I want to know where we get into the, are you a decision maker, an objective decision maker?
Yes.
And I am going to tell you that I do have a fabulous story, not fabulous.
Yes.
I have a bizarre story to tell you.
Well, the
that
reason
I think
that
applies to this field note. So keep going here.
I'm right with you. So the reason that I'm asking about it is because at the end of when we start talking about, are you an objective decision maker? The question becomes, okay, are these the behaviors of someone who's positioning themselves as objective looking,
but not really?
But not really, right?
Yeah.
Or are these the behaviors of someone who is actually objective? Like, are you trying to position?
So you're saying a lot of leaders would be in an organization where they'd be like, well, listen, I had lunch today with the CEO of an organization, a nonprofit here in Pittsburgh. And I'm sure, I'm just making this up. If anybody knows that guy's schedule and is like, this is what really happened. It's not. But if he were like, I'm going to go back to the office. I want to get a wide array of viewpoints. And I know everybody knows I did something similar about this, but maybe that's not the right thing. And we're going to reflect and I'm going to have you guys present this and he knows all along, he's going to ignore the board and the recommendations. He's going to do the thing all along. So it doesn't do any good for you to pretend you're doing all of these things that indicate that you've taken a 30,000 foot view when you really haven't. That's what you're worried about.
Yes, exactly. And where my worry shows up is in this idea that if I'm already perceived as having a bias one way or the other on an upcoming decision, not only do I not want to be part of the decision-making process in a way that some of these things are outlined in the field note today, but I might also, do I want to state my bias up front? Wait, what if it's not a well-known bias that I have, except like in an inner circle? They all know what my bias is. But the wider VP group that is going to be making this decision with me, should I be like public with the fact that I just want to be objective, so therefore I'm going to state what my bias is up front? Does that make me more credible, or does that actually hurt my credibility when it comes to the actual decision?
Well, I'll say, like in the lunch that I had with the CEO today, There was a point where he said, I'm going to state my bias up front. He almost used exactly that language. And I was like, oh, okay. And I kind of bought him. He's probably a pretty good salesperson in terms of, like maybe this is a line that he knows, it's kind of like the car salesman saying,
right,
let me tell you what I'm going to do. This is not something I can normally get away with, but I'm going to go talk to my manager.
I know, but you're invoking a used car salesman in a way that it's like none of us trust. Like all of us think that whole thing is contrived. Whether it's effective or not is not really what we're asking about.
Sure.
Because we want real great behaviors that admired leaders do.
Yeah. And you also don't want the leader who's actually run their objectivity through an AI already, come up with the scenarios, and now they're going to come in and play act this role that the AI coached them to do. So it's like, am I talking to the real Mikey, or am I talking to this sort of facsimile? You're a simulacrum of Mikey.
Exactly. And so that's where it gets back to, are celebrities going to be more schlubby on camera for their cameos in order to prove that they're really who they are?
Yeah. Okay. Well, all right. Now I'm going to try to bring this back into a non-cameo world, and we'll see where we end up. Right. But the heart of this, we all would know, we would like to think that if you can become a more objective decision maker, you're probably going to make better decisions some of the time. Now, objective is a weird word. Like, remember, I was a journalist for the first 30 years of my life, and so you always had that idea of, are you an objective journalist? And you're like, yeah, I'm an objective broker of truth and information, and I don't have I'm not here to spin, right?
Yes.
So that was the thing. Now, I don't know that that's the same world in the media now. It's we've kind of gone more to where it's like, well, I kind of expect you all to lie and spin to me in some way. So I'm just going to pick the people that I think spin the way that I like more often. And I would love to talk. We could talk about that for 3 or 4 hours.
Yeah.
3 or 4 days. But in any case, I always liked being, as best I could, objective, not identified with a particular background or party or movement or other than just like, this is a good story. There's some powerful information. It's helpful to know what's going on, right?
Yes.
So,
and that being said, do you think that 80% of the people in any given room think of themselves as the moderate in the room?
Yeah, they probably do. Yeah.
As the middle position, right?
Yeah.
But everybody thinks that, or at least 80% of people think that.
Those other crazy people out there. Yeah. Right. That's what the problem is. So, but here's the thing, the main sort of advice in the field note is, how do you create distance from the actual decision? And, we talked about, and there's the elements of the pieces in here are pretty good. You want to aim for fairness. You want things that are data that's provable, testable, verifiable, not just a misleading intuition. I have some things to talk about there, but can you base it on facts and evidence? Can you pause and reflect? Now, I do think, and I've mentioned this before, I'm kind of a follower, and spent some time talking earlier this year with Ian McGilchrist, the UK psychiatrist and philosopher, who believes that we've become too analytical, too logic, reason oriented, and there's not enough imagination and intuition that gives you a holistic way of coming to decisions that sort of better reflect the fabric of reality. And so I think that issue of, well, facts are better than intuition, but the problem is there's an inexhaustible supply of facts, right? So there's actually you can't even number the facts and evidence. Yeah. So there is really in this, whether you're talking about intuition or facts, it's what is the story that you're overlaying here? What is the pattern that you're seeing and detecting? Because there's as many facts as there are opinions. And so the truth is somewhere in the narrative that you've wrapped this around, the worldview that you've wrapped this around. I think leaders need to kind of be able to kind of see all of those perspectives. And yet, as we were talking the other day about tunnel vision, we sometimes get in the middle of this process of looking at all of the facts that we think are on the table and even our own hunches and intuition. And we can't get to that 30,000 foot view to widen out our perspective to actually see the better picture. And that's where we get stuck.
Right. So the seeking out of diverse viewpoints, even all of these bolded quotes that you have in here, like, are the very specific things that you mentioned are like the things to do.
Yeah.
So,
and by the way, I highlighted and bold those in this field note. You could make a case for slightly different versions of the bolding. I just kind of went with what resonated most with me.
Right.
So you can see if you look at the physical field note in your email,
Yeah.
email or on the Substack website. I do get one Substack where the person that writes it is such a believer in the non-digital world. They're like, there's a button that they're like, this will take you so that you can print this and read it. I kind of admire that.
Yeah, I like that a lot, actually. Okay, so if you're seeking out diverse viewpoints, is like if you're not like getting to the core of this very quickly, you might think, is that point seeking out diverse viewpoints? Again, is it for the purpose of you appearing objective? Does that matter? The appearance of objectivity, which I believe it does matter, right? But actually being objective is probably more important. And so the real juice here is like not necessarily just the things that you're doing to be objective, but the things that you can also practically do to ensure that you're appearing objective as well.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, let's take an admired leadership thing. See if this works. We always talk about in our behavioral view of leadership that, well, you'd be like, I got to get the right mindset, going here before I figure out what I'm going to do. And we're like, look, just do the things that we know are effective, and you do them and you do them and you do them. And pretty soon that's who you are. Right. Same thing might work here, which is if you can enter into dialogue, into dialogos, the idea of like, I'm going to be like, hey, that was really interesting. That actually makes me think about things in a different way.
Right.
Now, even if I don't fully believe this, like if I do that enough, I actually will start to be changed by the thing that you're saying.
Yeah.
It will actually start to affect me.
Yeah, no, and that shows up so much in organizational decision making. Leaders will oftentimes host a brainstorming discussion,
Right.
and during the brainstorming, they will allow people to go into advocacy, and that always derails brainstorming. You've left it, especially if you're going to allow it. And not only does it make the brainstorming problematic, you've also completely missed the part of dialoguing, right? So
Yes.
the temptation to like have a target and move towards it immediately is always going to be there. And because we as humans are naturally such strong advocates for stuff, we're looking for something to advocate. We're wanting to say what our position is way too quickly. So the best leader will do that, right? And the way that it actually shows up in the way that the discussions are made is that you have discussions that are specifically for brainstorms, and you stay disciplined to make them just brainstorms. And then you have separate discussions that are specifically about dialoguing, which is different than the brainstorm, right? There's all kinds of ways that you can wrestle with things, right? Because the brainstorm is about generating ideas. The dialogue is about like really wrestling with stuff, right?
Yes.
And then after that, let's have a separate discussion where we all get to advocate for our points of view.
Okay.
Right? 3 separate discussions. Like if we did that, at what point am I hiding my lack of objectivity, right? Because if we had those 3 discussions out there, I wouldn't want to maybe I would feel free during the brainstorm stage to say, but maybe you don't want to say that because then it sounds too much like advocacy, especially if you're a heavy-handed leader where everyone is just kind of waiting until they hear what you have to say, and then they're just going to kind of follow in line behind it. Like your objectivity needs to be like the last one in the room to speak in order for you to actually get as many honest opinions as possible.
Okay. We could unpack that. I actually have to go right to the story because we only have a minute or two, and
Go for it.
only works today.
Yes.
And I think it can be, let's see. So my office is in a detached building from my main house. And underneath this office is about 1,000 square foot gym. It's rigged for my particular high intensity sport. There are 2 garage doors, right? Now, I like keeping the garage doors up a lot of the year, cold, hot, doesn't matter. Every now and then a bird will fly in. So yesterday morning, a bird flew in. Now, you probably maybe have seen this in other garages. Birds go, how do I get out of here? Yeah. And they fly up on top of the garage door.
Right.
They're like, because everything inside them says, go up, go up.
Yep.
And now
And
one,
it's a protected place up there as well.
yeah, it is. And so then they're and a little bit manic. They're flying around. So I try a couple things. I put the garage doors down. I put the garage doors up. There's a side door. I open that. The bird all day long, it cannot get out of this garage. I go about my business. I work out for a while. In fact, at some point, my wife and I were in there trying to scare it out. I used a leaf blower. The bird, I realized at this point, it was already traumatized. It had actually banged its head. You could see blood on its forehead, and there were streaks of blood on the ceiling, right? And at one point, the bird flew up and like lit on a banner that I had on the wall of the garage and just sat there for like 6 hours, paralyzed, didn't move.
Right.
And I thought, this bird's going to die. And then later I found the bird and it was just sitting on the floor. And then I went to try to kind of scoop it into a box and it flew away. Right. And then it sat up on this pipe for, and like last night I went in, I closed the garage doors. I left the side door open. And I was really hoping that this bird would make its way out. Now, I went in right before midnight and I shut the door because I didn't want like raccoons crawling in the garage and playing poker. And so early this morning, though, I go and I say, I'm going to find a dead bird in this garage. You're all with me still?
Yeah.
I go in, bird's up on the pipe. It's just sitting up there. And I walk in. Yeah. And now it's flying around. It's feeling much better. And I was like, huh. So I leave the side door open again. And I'm going, and then I don't know why, but I'm out in the driveway and I'm thinking, I remember some story about St. Francis of Assisi who used to preach to the birds. There's a story about St. Francis of Assisi. Now, I didn't grow up in a tradition where we talked about St. Francis of Assisi very much. I don't think ever, right? Nor did we think about, in my tradition, like there wasn't a lot of talking to the saints in general, right? But I'm like, Frank, dude, send a message.
Uh-huh.
I go back in the house. I get the coffee made. I go back over to the gym. The bird is gone.
Okay.
Make of that what you will, by the way, right? Just in the timing of the odd 24 hours of the bird. But I'm sitting here, and the whole time that 24 hours, I'm like, what a dumb creature this is. Like, freedom is right there. Freedom, it's being offered to you in every direction, every possible way to get you to the best potential for you. And yet you're going to beat your head against the ceiling till it's bloody. And you're going to sit there paralyzed, unable to make a decision for hours and hours and hours and hours. And you're going to spend all night just in this one position. And I thought, I think I'm exactly like that bird. Yeah. Many, many times. And this field note is about how could you need to find that way to say, why are you missing the pathway to the things that are clearly in the best process of a decision, and yet you can't get out of your own little bird brain, that you're bashing it against you're beating yourself bloody because you're just not seeing the open avenues that are being presented to you. So just widen that out, and maybe you'll be able to fly to freedom.
Yeah.
How is that for a poetic ending?
Oh, that's fantastic. In this story, you're the boogeyman, and as soon as the boogeyman left, the bird had freedom to be able to.
Well, I'd been in and out, but I definitely kept thinking that this bird. I tried playing music really loud. Yeah. I was like, this bird it's like, I've gone to hell. Like, I'm sure that bird is like, I love it out here in the sky, but all of a sudden I am in this place where people are like blowing stuff at me, and sound is going crazy, and it's awful and it's terrible, and I'm going to die. That's what that bird definitely thought. That's where it was.
Yeah. Good job saving a bird.
Mikey doesn't like the story, but
no, love it. Thanks very much, man. It's
all right.
Great.
See you tomorrow.
The theme of freedom is fantastic, right? Get to it.
Get some objectivity. Fly out the garage door.
All right. Thanks, Scott. Let's talk tomorrow.
Bye.
Bye.